Welcome to the Monogram Grid software lesson. Catherine Artina's original article in Designs of Machine Embroidery magazine shows us how to create original artwork using fonts and lettering that you have in your computer. It's very clever and creative, so let's get started. First of all, we want to check our grid. Now, mine is set up right now in millimeters with a 20 millimeter grid setting. To switch this to 1-inch settings, all I need to do is change my grid first to inches, then right-click on it again and change my grid settings to 1-inch square and click OK. Now, we have our grid all set up. The next thing we need to do is set our palette. Since we're working with a 6-inch square design, we want to draw that first. We're going to create a rectangle. Just draw it on your screen. Select it. Come over here to your Properties box and click on Transform. Now, we'll uncheck Maintain Aspect Ratio. Change the width to 6 inches and the height to 6 inches. You'll notice whenever I change my ruler settings, like I did here from metric to inches, it changes most of the measurement settings in my software also to inches. So I'm always working with the same size now, or type of measurement. Now I'm going to click Apply, and let's center origin. So now I have a 6-inch square grid. The next thing I'm going to do is select my text tool and type in a letter. In this case, I'm going to do a W and select the font. I want it to be Arial Central Run because it's a run stitch font. And I want it to be 0.8 inches and apply that. Now, I'm going to take the W, select it by clicking on it, and move it up to this box. Now, I want it to fill the box almost completely, but not fully, so that you can see a little bit of space between them. And I'll leave just a little bit of space at each side, like so, and roughly center it in that box. Okay, now that I have the W set up here, I'm going to replicate that across and down. The easiest way I have for replicating something is to select it. I could do copy and paste and fill it in and then duplicate that, but I think this way is much simpler. I'm going to go to my repeat tool and I'm going to select, I want it to go 3 across and I want it to go 6 down. I want the distance between centers to be 1 inch and the vertical distance to be 1 inch. This sets them up so that they're going to fit in there just perfectly in my 1-inch grid that I have designed. Now let's click OK. And all I have to do is move that down to fit it in here. And how easy was that? Let's center origin again so we can see it. I think I want to scooch it ever so slightly. So when I do that with it selected, I hold down the Control key and use my arrow functions. And that allows me to get minute adjustments to the object that is selected. And let's look at it in 3D so we get rid of those jump stitches. And there we have our W's. Now, the next letter we're going to use is M. And I'm going to select my text, click here, select the letter M, and apply. Then make the same adjustments. I'm going to fit it into this box, and I want it to almost fill the box completely. So I'll move it down and out. And there's my M. Now, let's do the same thing with the M and duplicate it, or use the repeat tool. Click repeat. I want to go 6 down. The distance between them, I want to be 1 inch. Backspace, 1 inch, and that is between the centers. Oh, I'll put that in after I select the centers. And I don't need auto resequence by color. And the vertical distance. Okay, and apply that. That looks like it'll work. Click OK. And again, move this into position. That looks pretty close. Let's pull in a bit to see. And boy, I think I hit that one right. Oh, we could probably adjust it down just a hair. Okay, now we have our background, and all of this is done with a run stitch, so it doesn't add a lot of bulk to it, but it gives us the initials in the background. I'm actually doing this for my nephew who turns 30 in February, and his last name begins with an N. So the next thing we'll do is create the applique. I want to open a new page to do the applique so I don't mess up what I've already gotten done, and then I'll merge the two together. So here's my new page. I'm going to go into File and select Import True Type Text. And I want the letter N, capital N. And if I click on these 3 dots, it will bring up all of the true type fonts that I have living out there in my computer, which are quite a few. True type fonts you can download from the internet and come up with all kinds of designs from them. But the font we're going to use today is called Elephant. I select Elephant, and I want it to be the bold version. And the size, you can make it whatever size you want to. This would be, I just made it 150. You could make it 300 if you want to make it large enough so you can play with it. And then click OK. And click OK again. Now, what happens here, you'll see, if I look at my sequence view, this is just artwork. Okay, it's that letter N with an outline of artwork around it. The artwork doesn't stitch. We need to do a couple of things to make this into a design. First, we'll want to resize it, and we can just drag one of the handles here until it's about 4 to 5 inches large. Let's see how big that is. Let's make the width exactly 4.5 and the height the same. Since we don't have our maintain aspect ratio selected, we can select both of them. And then we'll center origin so we can see it. Okay, now here is our design. The next thing we're going to do is convert this into an applique. Let me show you how that's done. Now, the easiest way to do this is to use the slice tool. You could add points, and you see where there are these nodes, and you can add a node and then drag that and break it apart. But the slice tool lets us do it much simpler. I select the slice, and I'm going to actually zoom in right here on this section. I want to go with the slice tool, I'm going to go from this point here and bring it up to meet this point there. Then right click once and twice, and it sets that for me. Now let's go over here. Because we want just the big part of the end to be our applique, I'm going to select the slice tool again, and I'm going to click from here and bring that down so it's a continuation of that line on this side of the end. Right click again, and it sets that. Now, when I select my design, let's zoom back out a little bit and see what happens here. When I select it, it's still all together. So what I have to do at this point is right-click and say Break Apart. Now you can see I can select just this side of the N and just this side, and the center section here I can make into an applique. Wasn't that simple? Let's do that now. So with the center section selected, I'm going to change its color to red and fill it. That'll show us exactly where that is and what we have selected, which is perfect. Now, all I have to do to make that an applique is right-click and say Convert to Applique. And it's done. It sets it up as a satin stitch applique with a width of 3.5 millimeters, an inset of 50%, meaning that's going to go 50% in and off of that tack down line or the placement line, and it will work perfectly for our needs. Then I need to select the blue portions, and I can convert those to a satin stitch or a run stitch or whatever I want it to be. Let's just do, let's make it a complex fill. I want to do a complex fill, and rather than a tatami fill, let's do a brick fill. Give it a little bit of interest since it is visible. Now let's look and see what that looks like in 3D. That looks very good, except that my applique is under my sides. So I'm going to select the applique and move to the front. Now it'll cover up the lines from those points at the end. I could even take and move this in with my control key and my arrows. I'm going to move it over a little bit so that it lines up nicely with the edge there, just like it did before. Now, we're all done with our applique, but let's add one more thing here. I'm going to create another text box because this is for my nephew for his 30th birthday. I'm going to not go to Text Designs, click on Text, and type in February space 26, comma 1985. And let's make that a mini font. Let's go down here to our Arial Small and click Apply. And move it, oops. Let's pick up the whole design with the hand and move it over here. You know, I actually have the room to spell out February, so I think I'll do that. February. And get rid of the period and apply that. I'm going to rotate it so that it matches the slant of the N and move it right here. I think that'll be a nice little remembrance for him. And I'm going to also change the color because I want that to go at the end, which it already is, but I'm just going to make it green so I remember. Okay, so now we have our design. Let's select it all. Control A. I'm going to group it and copy it. Then we'll go back to our initial design and paste. And I think that put that smack dab in the center of where we already had it. And now let's do a slow redraw to make sure that our design is going to stitch out in the order in which we want it to. And we'll start with our slow redraw and we can just drag this across. There's the W's and the M's and the N. And I don't care if those are in the same color at this point. I will put an additional layer of stabilizer under the applique because I've got all the satin stitching on it. And there we're ready to go. Now all I need to do is File, Save As, and save this design in the format I need for my machine. I will also save it as a C2S file because in case I need to come back and make any adjustments, I can do that. And in the location where I want it to be. And that's all there is to the grid. Now, some other options that Catherine gave us are to put the initials on a diagonal. So let's go back and do that. I'm going to remove my design here, and we can just delete it, select it, and delete it. Delete. Then let's get rid of most all of our initials. I'm going to get rid of all of those, delete that, and all of these, delete that, and all of these. Now, when you do it on a diagonal, the repeat tool doesn't work so great. So what we do here is we simply copy and paste. And do Control Insert and Shift Insert. And just start building our way across. And Shift Insert, pull this one over, and insert again. 4. And I want to do 5 by 5. And Shift Insert again. And there you go. Now with the M's, oh, and there you go. Now we can make sure these are all aligned by selecting it here and clicking on Vertical Align Center, which means it's going to align them up and down on a vertical plane. Now the next thing I want to do is copy that row, Control Insert, Shift Insert, and paste. Now, I didn't do the copy paste. I did Control Insert and Shift Insert just because I think that's easier to do. And these are already spaced appropriately. I just want to make sure they're in the boxes good. Okay, so I'll do either copy paste or like right click copy, right click paste, or Control Insert and Shift Insert with my keyboard, whichever way you prefer, they work the same. And I'll just continue to take one letter off, copy it again, Control Insert, Shift Insert, pull it down, fit it in there, click one W, take it off, Control Insert, Shift Insert, and now we have our final W. And there you go, once you delete it. Now, you'll notice it doesn't go all the way to the bottom, but that's okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is bring my M down here. I'm going to copy it and insert it and move it over. And now I'm going to pull these up one row. So I'm going to build it from the bottom a little bit differently. So just hang on and you can see what we're going to do. Control Insert, Shift Insert, Shift Insert again, Shift Insert again to get our 5. And then I'm going to select all of these and line them up. And I think they're fairly well centered in there. It's good enough for me. Then I'll select 4 of them. I just keep picking different ways to do this. Control Insert, Shift Insert, and I'm going to move that up. and then adjust it. I could align it with the other one as well. Then I'm going to just select 3 of them. So I'm showing you multiple ways that you can duplicate these. And if you wanted to do the repeat tool and delete what you're not going to use and then put the 2 together, I think that would by far be the easiest way to do it. And Control Insert, Shift Insert, move up, and one more, Control Insert, Shift Insert, and now you're up there. Now, since we did that kind of wonky all over the place, what I do want to do, if we take it off of 3D view, we're going to see, wow, look at those jump stitches going every which way. I'm going to select them all, and I want to optimize my sequence. And now I want to select them all and optimize my entry-exit points. And there you go. All right, now the next thing that we're going to do, because we still want this to be a 6-inch grid, but we wanted our letters to be even, is I'm just going to take and select all of them and make them longer. So each one gets a little bit long in the tooth, and we're good to go. Now, instead of doing an applique on this one, you could just select a letter from your text. I'm going to change my color for my letter to red, and click on my text tool, click on my screen, and select the letter N. Then let's click on our fonts. There's one in particular I'd like to use. I mean, you could use one of these really cool, monogram fonts like this one. Let's see what that looks like. Click OK, and I want to make that 4 inches. So it's really big. Now, you'll notice here, because I made that so large, it does the offset on the satin stitch. It will drop a stitch in between, so it kind of weaves it. It still looks like a satin stitch, but it's not going to be so large that it snags. That's one option. Another option, let me click on my picture, is to do, oh, this one I like. This one. So I don't have quite as much stitching. And again, I'm going to make this 4 inches and apply. And it does a little bit of that, but I think I like that one better. It's a little more unique. Let's pull out so we can see everything. The first thing I want to do is group my letters so they don't get messed up. Put them together. And then I'll move the N on top of that. Select it all and center it. Now, if I want to adjust the size of my N, I could do that. We could make it a height of 4.5. Let's maintain aspect ratio. We'll do 4.5. So it makes the width 4 inches. Select the background and center that again. And now I can save this design. And we have another example of a beautiful monogrammed wall art. You'll go to the project lessons to figure out how to put this all together and exactly which stabilizers to use to stitch it. Thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you with the next lesson.